Hi, I'm Clark on Temptress. Today we're going to finish up this batteries BMS replacement. I put the battery BMS in the last video, got it all physically installed. We managed to get it to light up, to turn on the BMS, and we got it connected to the app. So now we're going to go through the app and set it up and figure it out. There's a lot to this app. So I went to the App Store and I downloaded this app. Now, I got it by just searching on JK BMS. It's got a little blue cloud and some Chinese letters and then BMS. On the BMS itself, there's one of those codes that you can scan, so it should be very easy to find. So let's start it up. Open the app, little splash screen, and oh, this is interesting. It does a scan, and I see BankManager 00, BankManager 01, and BankManager 02. Those are the three bank managers that are running on the boat, and they're transmitting BLE, Bluetooth Low Energy. So I know this guy is a BLE, modern device, and I see a JK. This is the serial number, this is the part number. So we'll choose that. Oh, I hear some clicking and beeping inside the battery, so it connected, and here we are. What do we know? Well, it's 13.29 volts, and we get 0 amps. Seem to have a warning here. And let's see what that says. Yep, all kinds of things aren't right because we have to set it up. So let's go into settings. Okay. We've got to verify the password. I did go into this on my own beforehand, and the password to get into the app starts out as 1234. Change that, because someone could log into your battery and like turn off your battery. But there's another one for the settings, and that one's real secret. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I understand. And yep, it looks like it is. They have some base settings, but you can see right now, it thinks it's a 40 amp hour battery, and the cell count is 8, and we have 4 cells, because we're 12 volt and a lot more than 40 amp hours. But let's just start by pushing the LiPo button. Okay, that should have like defaulted it to LiPo, and then let's start changing things. Well, we don't have 8 cells, we have 4 cells. Not 84 cells, 4 cells. We don't have 40 amp hours, we want 200 amp hours. Oh, let's see, the balance trigger voltage. This would be when the balancer comes on. When the cells get out of balance, when all of these individual groups of cells aren't taking a charge exactly the same way, their voltage will get out of whack. And that is really a bad thing for a lithium battery. It'll cause them to shut down early because the BMS has to shut down when the first battery hits its limit. So we're gonna tell it when it's allowed to do its balancing. I guess the idea is you don't want it just balancing all the time. And it defaults to 0.01 volt. I think that's a perfectly reasonable time to do it. Calibration volts and calibration current. I believe that has to do with if you don't trust the voltage that it's reporting to you, you can calibrate it, and we don't want to change that at this time. Now there's some advanced settings. Okay, the start balance voltage. When will we let it start balancing? Now, if we set it for 3 volts, that would be times 4, so 3, 6, 12. I think that's a little low. I'm going to set it a little higher. I'll set that for 302, and that'll be like 13.1-ish. I think that's a good place to let it start balancing. I really don't want it to balance when the cells are really low, because that would be bottom balancing. And you really either want to do top balancing or bottom balancing. Almost always you want to do top balancing. Because think about it. Your battery is going to be up near 100 probably more often than they're going to be truly at 0. There's 2 times when that hockey stick happens. I guess it goes this way. When you're in the middle, the voltages all tend to be about the same. But when you get near the ends and the slope gets very vertical, the batteries will all kind of follow their own path. So you want them all balanced at one end or the other, and I say top. Balancing current, 2 amps. This is a good big battery. It can handle 2 amps. Let's do that. State of charge, 100% voltage. You know, I don't know what all of these are. So I think that is, oh, I know what that is. Okay, so it goes with the next one. So cell overprotection voltage. At 3.6 volts, this guy will shut down the batteries. Usually that's done at 3.65. I'm going to raise that to 3.65. Then we have cell over voltage reset. That would be if it went over 3.65 in any one cell and it shut off the ability to take any more charge, when would it reset that ability? And 3.55 seems perfectly reasonable. With the BMS also protects at the low end. So that's the under voltage section. So the cell under voltage protection will happen at 2.6 volts. So that would be 10.4 volts at the poles, more or less. But when the first battery hits 2.6 volts, it shuts down. And much like the other one, it's got a little slightly higher voltage now where it will bring that back on, you know, allow you to discharge again once the voltage comes up above that second number. They've got state of charge 100% and 0%, and I guess what that's doing is resetting the 100% counter when it hits that voltage and resetting the 0% counter when it hits that voltage. That is no way to reset a state of charge. It's a lot more sophisticated than that. The BankManager does it in a much better way. So if you're ever using this BMS with a BankManager, and I would say most any BMS is probably going to use this method, trust the BankManager. A lot of people that have Victron gear and a BankManager, they realize that really quickly the Victron is drifting and the BankManager stays right on. Little commercial for my device. You'll find the ad for it down in the description, of course. Let's see. So far these are pretty good. Power off voltage, sleep, how long to sleep, how long to check between sleeps. This would all have to do with if the voltage went crazy low and then it wanted to shut off the BMS. But you probably have to well, no, it's got a sleep time, so it would check every now and again. It would make it a little difficult to reawaken the battery by charging it. You probably have to charge it for this number of seconds until it woke up. The reason for that is this BMS is always using just a little bit of power. And if your cells got down into the danger zone and you still just left this on a shelf, they could get way down to the point where if you take one of these stone dead, they're not coming back, like ever. So that's a good thing to have. I'm going to leave it right where they are. Now we're into the temperatures. And, oh, I don't like this. So let's try to figure this out. We've got a temperature, OTP, degrees Celsius, and that's the high end when it will shut things off. 70 Celsius seems reasonable. While it's charging, when it's discharging, also 70. There's a reset for each of these. So if it went above 70, it would shut down. When it drops below 60, it comes back on. 60, 70. I say these are reasonable temperatures. They're not up there in the danger zone for lithium. I was always told in electronics, if you touch something and it hurts, the pain threshold is 60 Celsius. And I found that to be very accurate, at least for my hands. Then we have MOS, again, over temperature protection, and MOS over temperature reset. This time it's 100 degrees and 80 degrees. MOS would be the MOSFET, metal oxide semiconductor. And these are the actual transistors that do the switching. So these are the things that will get the hottest. These are the things that, it's sad that they have to be used, but they're so much cheaper than the mechanical contactors that I know why they use them. I use mechanical contactors with BankManager just because, well, because these have to have a resistance. So therefore, if you put power through them, they have to make heat. Heat is bad because it's heat. Heat is also bad because that's a waste of energy. Why would you be heating the battery on a hot day? This, I believe, has to do with updating the screen. This BMS actually has the ability to have a little LCD display that tells you lots of data. And then you got some private user data, and you can set these up, and you can set up some CAN bus things. I believe this might be able to talk to a Victron. I'm not certain. I won't say that for sure. But Victrons use a CAN bus, and then there's a UART interface as well. UART is like a serial interface, and the plugs for those two things are there. Okay, all those connecting wires that I put on, soldered together, if I wanted to, I could figure out their individual resistances and type them into this table, because it's going to be sensing voltage, and the resistance of the wires would affect that. These are short runs, and I think it's fine, so I'm not going to bother with those. And that's it. Those are all the controls. Let's take a look at the next section. This looks like it's kind of a less detailed way of doing things, and you can turn features on and off. So I could modify the password, and I will do that before, but I won't do it online, of course. Whether it can be charged or discharged, so you could turn those features right off, so it wouldn't ever be able to take a charge if you turn them off here. There's this balance. Okay, make sure that's on, and it isn't, right? So I've turned on charge, discharge, and balance, so it can balance the batteries now. This emergency, we want to leave this off. If you ever got it in a mode where it couldn't work, it was over temperature, under temperature, whatever, but like this was going to power a defibrillator and you needed it right damn now, you turn that on and it'll throw its safeties to the wind and you will have power. But we don't want that. Disable temperature sensors? Well, you would only want to do that if you were having trouble with the temperature sensors and they were shutting the battery down. So it's nice to know you can turn that on. Display always on, display sleep. Yeah, back to that little display it has. And I guess that's all the functionality of this. Let's go back to the beginning now and actually do stuff with this. So, okay, back to the main screen. Charge is now on, discharge is now on. The battery voltage differentials between the cells is 0.03 volts, so that's not enough for it to do a balance. I know for a fact these cells, because I did all kinds of testing earlier in the battery review, they're excellent cells. They're not off by very much. The lowest cell voltage is 3.321. The highest is apparently 3.324. They're moving around a little bit because they're right in the middle of charge. Let's have some fun. Let's give it some power and see if it takes the power. Okay, we got it hooked up. Currently, I'm seeing 13.29 volts and a half an amp going in, which is close. This says 0.8 of an amp is going out. Let's turn it up a little bit. All right, my charger, and this has been pretty accurate. This says 5 amps is going into the battery, just a little more. The battery indicator only says 4.5 amps. I've just learned that this guy on the wall here is plenty accurate. It's not off by half amp. So this guy is off. Maybe later I'll go into that little area and change its calibration. Remember, it had a calibration for current and voltage. The voltage is up a bit. The voltages won't agree on these two devices because of all the voltage drop in the wires, but that's expected. I got a little warning here. Let's see what this says. Modify password in time. Okay, it means that please modify your password sometime. I'm not going to bother with that. Well, I'm going to let this go for a while because I want to see these cells start to come up to charge and come out of whack with each other. I'd like to see it start balancing. It says balancing is off, but I think that will automatically turn on when it gets to the point where it should. What we have here I'm going to read through everything that it shows us on the active screen. Of course, the main battery voltage, very important. Battery power, 60.3 watts. Battery capacity, 200 amp hours, because I told it so. Remaining capacity, well, it's down a bit. It really has no way of knowing. It's just guessing based on the voltage right now, but that should reset when it gets up to the 100%. The battery, it thinks is about 69% full. Cycle count, it's had 0 cycles. Well, that makes sense. We just powered it up. Cycle capacity It's 0 amp hours. I think once it does a cycle, it might kind of see how much amp hours it thinks are really in the battery. Time emergent, probably emergency. It probably has something to do with how long has it been in a failed state. And then time to enter sleep. That's a lot of seconds. 86,000 seconds. I would have to do the math. I imagine that's kind of deciding when it thinks the battery is going to be so low in voltage that it's going to have to put the BMS to sleep. And then over here on the amp side, we have basically cell information, I guess. We've got the average cell voltage. Okay, that would be this number divided by 4. We've got the cell voltage differential, and it's 0.001. Really small, but remember, we're in the 13.3 range, so it should be small. And that is telling us from the lowest cell to the highest cell, what's the max difference. Remember, when that gets over 0.01, it's going to turn on its balancer. Balance current, 0 amps. Well, balancer's off, so it should be 0 amps. And now we have the battery temperatures and some detailed log count. The log count is probably some kind of information of what's happened, but I noticed the battery temperature sensors aren't working. I'll pop this open and see if I plugged it in properly, but that's concerning that the battery temperature sensors aren't working. But I'll solve that. I'm sure that they work. It's just me not hooking it up right. Probably wiggled it loose. Yep, that was it. I had wiggled the wire loose when I did something else. Anyway, plugged it all the way in, and now we see that the MOS temperature, the transistors themselves, are at 30 Celsius. That's cool as could be, considering it's 28 degrees more or less in here. Look at the sweat. And the battery sensor is 28 degrees Celsius. So it's functioning, and that's what it should be. Well, a little time's gone by. I've set up a battery charger, power supply, whatever you want to call it. I've got weird equipment here that I use for weird purposes, but I'm dumping power into the device. We're up to, we're putting in 43.2 amps and it's charging up. I wanted to show you a few of the things that I realized I missed the first time through going through here. Anyway, battery power, the 586 watts, that's the power that's currently going in or out of the battery. And it's higher now because, you know, I'm dumping some real power into it. Most importantly, I want to show you a couple of the settings, the advanced settings that I neglected to even mention, and they're very important. Jumping down a little bit. Gotta find it now. There it is. I jumped past this one. Continuous charge current. I had to pump that up to 100 amps. This is a 200 amp hour battery. It should be charged at no more than 0.5 C. So 100 amps is appropriate. It defaulted to 20, and whenever I put the big charger on it, when I would turn it up past 20, the battery would shut down. It was very confusing. So anyway, don't forget to set that one. The other one that's very important is the low temperature shutoff. It defaulted it to a temperature I don't agree with. It's this charge UTP, and so it'd be under temperature protection, and then the reset for that. It had it set for negative 20 degrees, and that's just not right for lithium iron phosphate. So I've set it for 0 degrees Fahrenheit, or I'm sorry, 0 degrees Celsius. I actually think I'll boost that up to like 1 degree Celsius, and then I set the reset for a few degrees higher than that. Anyway, I'm going to continue to let this charge up. When it's charged up, we'll look at what happens to the cells as they come up and see balance happening, or see that it doesn't need balancing. See you in a bit. Okay, I've been charging the battery for quite a while. I've slowed it back down to charging at a more reasonable rate, hoping that we can see something happen here on my display. It's staying in balance really well. I'm kind of hoping it'll go out of balance as the voltage goes up and we can see the balance option come on. But these are really nice cells, so it's not going to probably do it. Okay, in fact, it just happened. Okay, so looking at the display here, The voltage differential went above 0.01 just there for a second. And I saw the balance current go up to 2 amps. And then, of course, in doing that, it moved the power, which raised the voltage of one and lowered the voltage of another cell. So it shut right off again. But we got it on tape, so you can see that happening. That means it's working. Yeah, I think I'm extra super happy with this BMS. It's probably the only one I'm going to buy from now on to do my own batteries when I do them, or fix batteries that need to be fixed. If you can continue to get it for 80 bucks, which is the price in the link down below there, well, that's a good price. I think that's a very good price for what you're getting. Well, I guess I'm gonna call this a win. Of course, I'll finish charging this right up to the top. I'll let it finish up its process of balancing the battery out. Then I'll seal the battery up and make it available to a friend of mine who desperately needs another 200 amp hours of batteries. That's why I rushed through this video so that I could get this together for him. Thanks for watching the video. Hope this helps you. Remember, there's the other video that talks about the physical install. And bye from Clark on Tempest.